And welcome to the Underbus Podcast. I'm your host, Merge, and I'm here with Clay. Oh my God, Clayton's not even here. Nelson. How are you doing, Nelson?
I'm doing great. I wrote probably the most important article of my life when I talked about the five best hairstyles in the NBA draft. I feel like Cole and Sam and a bunch of all these draft nicks, they really do a great job of sparsing through like the intricacies of the NBA draft. And I'm kind of in my own lane here because no one seems to be talking about the hairstyles like Lonnie Walker and Marvin Bagley, Colin Sexton, all these guys that it has a tad bit to do with their personality. So I think it's kind of interesting to see like how unique each class is in that aspect. But I also wrote some Melton articles because he's my guy. But I'm thinking Merch.
Awesome. And we are here with a very special guest, the honorary Cole Zwicker. Cole, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, dude. I think this is the last podcast for me before the draft. I have one more radio hit tomorrow, and then it's just time for the pandemonium.
There we go, man. Speaking of the draft, this time of the year, what do you like? What's your sort of feeling? Are you like excited for the draft to happen? Are you kind of sad that it's winding down? Are you just like exhausted from all the over and over deep diving on players, or what's your sort of feeling on it?
I think it's kind of a combination of all of the three. I love doing this, so I'll talk about the draft with whoever wants to talk with me about it. So, but it's just after a while, it's like, yeah, you just want it to happen because we've heard so many rumors over the last 3 days as far as the Hawks trading out of 3, who's going 2. We have no idea what's going on. So it's just kind of nice to have some closure eventually.
Yeah, 100%. Let's start off with this. The biggest sort of news out of today. Woj tweeted out that the Lakers traded Chicago 2019 second-round pick and some cash over to the Philadelphia 76ers and the 39th pick in the second round of this year's draft. Let's start off by this. Cole, what do you think the Lakers are sort of trying to position themselves with trading for that pick? You think they're trying to trade up to get somebody? You think it's a Kawhi play or a Deng play? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I just have a feeling they're not going to keep all of their picks this year as far as acquiring an additional pick. I don't know if they're going to really have place for 3 rookies, 3 more young guys on the roster. So it kind of feels like maybe they're going to utilize their first round pick to maybe try to make a move in aggregation with other pieces, and acquiring, a pick in the 30s allows them to still get a young player on their roster, maybe someone they were targeting like a Mitchell Robinson, who a lot of people have rumored to maybe be falling to the second round now. So they could just be targeting a player in general. They could be, some of the guys they've worked out. Shvi Mikhailuk, he's a guy that they really like in that range, apparently. So it could just be that. I don't know if we want to read too much into it as far as a trade aggregation piece, but it could certainly be that as well.
Right. Yeah. And you know firsthand how much Lakers Twitter likes to theorize on what is happening. I mean, we talked about freaking leather pants for a good whole Twitter day. So anything is talked about on Lakers Twitter, 100%. So let's move a little bit into Kawhi. Cole, just sort of off of what you're seeing from Woj and all the media right now, what's your sort of sense on where Kawhi, or well, first, do you think Kawhi will still be a Spur? And if not, where do you think he'll be?
Yeah, I do think he's going to be a Spur. I've kind of reached out to a couple contacts, and it doesn't seem like tomorrow is going to be the move time. We might see that more in free agency when things clear up a little bit, even though I do really prefer dealing guys on draft night. I think that's where you can get the most value, just because, once a guy gets selected to a team for some reason, it's like driving a new car off the lot. But draft night, everybody is full priced on draft night. So I really think you can get maybe some fair trade value there, but it's hard to predict. I mean, we don't have a lot of precedent for a top 5 player when he's healthy getting moved on draft night in this manner. We don't know what the relationship status is between Kawhi and Popovich, and it's going to take a really good offer. I don't think the Spurs are going to deal him for like 10 cents on the dollar because they have no incentive to do that. It's going to take a really, really high caliber offer to really pry him away.
Do you think he's a Spur starting next season?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to go no there. I think that they probably tried to deal him this summer. I don't know. It's really tough. I mean, it all depends on if they can work out the relationship. If there's any chance of salvaging that, I think he's on the Spurs for sure, but it's impossible to know that without inside information.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Nelson, what are your thoughts on Kawhi? Well, first, do you think Kawhi is going to be traded tomorrow, or do you think he'll be not a Spur once the season begins?
Yeah, I agreed with all of what Cole said. As soon as it draft day is over, all the prospects can really go down in value. Unless you're Luka Doncic, where you're probably going to be drafted absurdly low and you're still going to have tons of value. I feel that like all these prospects, I feel that like for the Spurs, it's important to manage the whole PR situation here. And if you trade him on draft day, then you're getting full value, or at least it's appearing to be full value, because in the end, you're still getting the same player. I mean, if you're trading for draft picks, then you can get your guy at that spot, and for the Spurs, that's really important. But if you maybe make a wink-wink deal, or maybe a team takes like the guy that you want, then you trade Kawhi then. But it's just that it all seems too recent. Like Pop just met with Kawhi. I mean, I'm not saying that the Spurs were completely unprepared for Kawhi to say like, no, I'm not going to leave. But it just seems like really, really all of a sudden to just make this trade offer. Like last year when Jimmy Butler was traded on draft day, that was crazy. But Jimmy Butler was rumored to be in trades for like 2 years prior.
Right.
So I just feel that like with NBA trades, especially with the Spurs, they're really meticulous, and they're really, really into like making sure that they draft their guy, and they really do a great job of scouting. And you know, they promised to draft Jonte Porter when no other NBA team promised to draft him, and you can already imagine what the Spurs can do with a guy like that as they develop him. So, and I think that the Spurs really have confidence in their own development system, as they should. So I feel that like if they're gonna move him, for me, if I was the Spurs, I'd be panicking and just trying to make the best possible trade possible on draft day, just so it looks better on a PR front and you can get the most apparent value. But it does make sense on their end to just hold on to this guy, because no matter who you draft, I mean, we could argue about whether Luka Doncic could get there, but Kawhi Leonard right now is a top 5 talent. Like healthy, he's a top 5 talent, undisputed, most likely top 3. And so, like, you don't just trade that away, and you'll be really hard pressed to find that, especially in this draft, where you know, it's a really deep draft, and I really like it from that point of view. But I just Luka Doncic is his ceiling outcome. I don't think it's I'd prefer to take Kawhi, you know, just because he's already a proven star, and you really hold on to those guys with all that you can. So he probably is he's 100% going to be a Spur after draft day. I don't see him making a quick turnaround and trading him. But at the beginning of the season, that's a little bit more tricky. I think the odds are if they're going to trade him, it'll probably be at the trade deadline, which is bad for value. But at that point, it'll for sure be apparent that they just can't keep him, and they're going to be left with no choice.
Yeah, I think Kawhi is going to be gone around after the summer league and after all of that. Like when Kawhi was traded, when Kyrie was traded last year, sort of in the August or something like that. I see that's when he would get traded, but I don't know. It's really tough to even gauge who is going to offer what for him. If he says he only wants to sign with the Lakers or the Clippers, how much does his value go down to non-Los Angeles teams? There's a lot of questions up in the air with that. But, you know, there's still a lot more time for that to be answered. Tomorrow, though, is the draft, and there's going to be a ton of craziness, probably been very early in the draft as well. Cole, after DeAndre Ayton, is there like any sort of sure thing after the number 1 pick to you?
I don't think there's any sure thing necessarily. I think right now there's a pretty heavy lean towards Marvin Bagley at number 2, just because he is one of the only guys, the only star caliber players who worked out for Sacramento. He wants to go as high as possible in the draft. So they have all his medical information. They know him pretty intricately now as a person. So I think that Bagley is probably the favorite to go to, but they could still go Luka Doncic. They could still go Michael Porter. In theory, they could trade down for Michael Porter. We have no effing idea, man.
Yeah. Of that lottery, is there a guy that you fear is going to drop a lot further than he should?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Right now, I think it's Trae Young. I mean, we've heard Trae Young anywhere from 6 to 13 in ESPN's recent mock draft, or 12, one of the 2 Clippers picks. Yeah, and so that's a ton of variance. I mean, 9 spots for a prospect like that at the top, that's a lot of variance. So I think he could definitely fall to 12, 13. I think he has one of the highest offensive upsides in the class. I can't make a case that's any kind of credible case to take 10 guys over him based on ceiling outcome in this class. So that would just be pretty unfathomable if he actually dropped 10, 11, or 12.
Yeah, I'm really high on Trae as well. I have number 3 on my board. I just love the offensive upside with him. Another guy that I think is sort of in that same mold, who Well, today there's rumors that he might go earlier than I thought, but Wendell Carter always seemed like a guy that I thought was going to drop after like 10 or 11 for some reason, and he's a guy that I always feel like is I should have higher on my board, but I don't for some reason, and he's the guy that I feel like right in the NBA he's gonna be a guy that we're gonna look back and be like, how did you draft him over? How did you draft this guy over Wendell Carter? I know you have Wendell in your top five, right, Cole?
Yeah, I have a number 4. I'm kind of the same with you as far as a prospect and actually reading the draft. I kind of misread the situation. I thought he was going to be the fall guy about a month ago, as far as maybe fall into 11 and 12, be the casualty of just all these bigs at the top. But then we hear that report today about he's moving up in the 4 to 7 range. I think teams are just falling in love with his character. He's a really high IQ player, the smartest big in the class. When teams get him into their building and they probably put him through film sessions, he can pick things out. So he's just really underrated in my opinion. He's not sexy like a lot of these highly athletic players, but I mean, he just has a super high skill level. He's the best offensive big in the class to me overall, as far as perimeter skills, making quick decisions. So I'm glad that teams are actually giving him his due here. I mean, honestly, I didn't expect it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Nelson, do you have any other guy who you think could drop, or you sort of agree on the Trey thing?
Michael Porter. I'm terrified because I came in preseason. I had him like number 2 or 3 on my board. I was really high on the guy. I saw him in high school. I was like, this is like the guy. Like, I see the potential here. The handle was a little bit worrisome because you always want to have some shake, especially if you want to be a primary initiator. But his shot was fluid. He had a good way of creating a shot on whether it's isolations or spotting up. Really athletic. He showed so much promise, like as a potential like number 1 guy on a really good team. That I saw it with him, but the back injury really derailed him. And Cole, like, what do you think is like the lowest possible pick? Like, where do you think that his value, like, or his like theoretical value, if his health is in order, or at least somewhat in order, like when is it finally good to gamble on a guy with a pretty bad back hip issue?
Yeah, I think I have number 10 on my board. That's kind of where I feel comfortable at that juncture taking it, which is a stark departure from coming into the season where I had a number 2. So yeah. It's crazy to think about where we are now compared to a year ago, but that's just the reality of the situation. We just don't have good information. His medical doesn't seem great. I think it might even be worse than what has been reported, from most of the mainstream sources. And the character stuff has been bad this year, as far as we can see it transparently. Like when he does interviews, he doesn't come off well. There's been some negative reports about him there, and he already had issues in his game. It's not like this guy was a perfect prospect. If he was Kevin Durant as a player, then you could see taking a shot and just being like, screw it. I don't want to miss on a franchise caliber player, but he had a lot of things to show. You guys talked about the ball handling, the defensive awareness, the rotation ability. He plays pretty stiff as far as high hips. He doesn't think low well on either the offensive or defensive end. So at 10, I feel like after that, I'm not missing on too many guys that I really think are going to impact your team long term. Like, I love guys like Kevin Huerter, for example, but I don't think they're really going to move the needle in dynamic fashion and be like a star caliber player. So 10 is where I can stomach it, but anywhere above that, I think you just have to kind of empathize with GMs a little bit. If you were actually put in this situation with the information that you had, and not just say from afar, I'm going to take a shot on this guy because of the talent, but how likely is it that he actually reaches his ceiling considering all these negative factors?
Yeah, I definitely agree. So the talk after the Lakers did trade for the third night.
I actually want to talk about two more guys because I think I'm really interested in these 2 bigs and how they compare in the draft, just because like on defense they're going to be really good, but on offense is like where they really differ. Because I know, Cole, you're a really big Jaren Jackson guy. I'm personally more of a Obama guy. Just I have number 2 on my board, and I it's the length. Maybe it's too shiny. It's a shiny object. I'm just like attracted to it. But it's just it provides such a high ceiling that it's really it'd be difficult for me to pass on like around that top 5 area. But what would really deter teams from gambling on a guy like Bamba and going with Jaren Jackson instead?
Yeah, I think Bamba is just a little bit more high variance as a prospect. He has a lower floor than Jaren Jackson, in my opinion. Jaren's basically better at everything on the floor except for rebounding, and he's a year and a half younger. He's quicker as far as defense and space. He's a better rim protector, reacts quicker. Offensively, he's a better shooter. He always has been at the high school level. Bamba is just there's more variance. I mean, he's working with Drew Hanlon now, ironing out his mechanics. That's kind of why I'm a little bit higher on him. I have him 6 on my board, so I'm willing to kind of bank on that high ceiling outcome, but there's a low floor. There's a floor there where he's basically unplayable in the playoffs because he's not good enough. If he doesn't shoot threes, not a good post player. He's not very physical as a screen setter. I don't think he's the vertical threat that a lot of people do as far as a vertical spacer diving to the rim. He's not very, he's not DeAndre Jordan as far as leaping ability. He just has really long arms, so he looks like that. Yeah. And if he can't defend in space, I think the whole 1-5 switch narrative with Bamba is pretty overrated at this juncture. If you watch his tape back, guys like Trae Young are going right around him, Zaire Smith. He's not nearly as good switching as a lot of guys think he is, but the upside is tantalizing. You can see his 85th percentile, 90th percentile outcome being literally Gobert with a jump shot. I mean, that's what we're dealing with here as far as that kind of player who can also dribble the ball a little bit. So I'm all in on the ceiling as far as being there. I just don't know how likely it is. I'd actually bet against it at this juncture, and especially with a guy like Jaren Jackson, where he has a really high floor. I don't see how that guy fails. He's so competitive defensively. He's like the defensive anchor type who can play both levels defensively. I think his ball handling is much better than Mo Bamba's in space. So I just really trust Jaren. And again, the age gap is pretty enormous here. I think Jaren's going to improve. He actually improved the most last season of any of the bigs in the class, and he's the youngest. So that's really good moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. As I was saying, so after the Lakers traded for the 39th pick, there's some speculation, especially from Kevin O'Connor, that the Lakers would try to trade up and try to get a Zaire Smith type guy. Cole, in that 14 to 20 range, and is there a guy that if you were the Lakers, you'd try to trade up for?
Yeah, that's a great question. Zaire is really intriguing for me. I think Kevin Huerter is the guy I would. I just feel like there's a little bit more certainty with his game, 6'7" ability to shoot off motion. He fits really well in LA's scheme. I get the intrigue with Zaire, though, because LA, I always think about projecting guys into half-court offense, but LA is really all about getting up and down. They want to push the pace with Lonzo. If you think about Zaire Smith catching lobs from Lonzo, getting up and down the floor, I mean, that's a pretty tantalizing idea. I mean, I'm sure as hell watching that on League Pass for sure. Yeah. So I think that I don't know how high you have to get up for Zaire. That's going to be a thing. Is where does he go in the draft? We heard a little bit to Denver at 14. Maybe that's when he starts maybe going off the board. Maybe a little bit earlier to the Clippers as one of their 2 picks. But I would not fault them for moving up for Zaire. I'm intrigued, but I don't know even his ceiling looks like.
Right.
He's one player. It's very, very hard to see what he is as a finished product. I don't think he's going to be Oladipo as far as that level of creator. That's just a very atypical developmental situation. There's not a lot of guys like him, but I guess defensively he could be like a Josh Richardson, a Victor Oladipo on that end. And both those guys were all NBA defensive players. So I think that's the intrigue with Zaire.
Yeah. Another guy that there is pictures floating around of him in a Laker practice uniform with Magic is your boy Troy Brown. How do you see his sort of fit in Los Angeles?
I think he's a little riskier.
Yeah,
he's a little riskier just because he doesn't have the shooting. He doesn't shoot off motion. He's never really shot from 3, even off the catch. So you're really banking on that developing in conjunction with athleticism improvements because he's not a great athlete. His posture is pretty poor in college, impacts his balance. He's not a good vertical athlete. I don't think that's going to change, honestly. But he's kind of like a Evan Turner type, where off the ball, like he can dribble and pass really well. He can make point guard reads. But how valuable is that in the modern game? Because he's not going to be dynamic enough to really initiate your offense. So if he's off the ball, the most important skill, of course, is shooting. I'm not sure if he's going to be a proficient shooter. So I like him in theory. He's super young. He's really, really intelligent. He's going to come across really well in interviews. I think he's actually going to go in the top 20 just because of that, like his age and intersection with his basketball intelligence. But I do think there's a lot of downside there as far as being an Evan Turner type of player, which is weird to say because Evan Turner's making $70 million in the NBA. But as far as value, I think there's a little bit more risk there than maybe some people do.
Yeah, he isn't really a guy that I would if he's there at 25, obviously you take him. Like he's way too good to not be taken there. But he's not a guy that you're trying to move up to really sort of risk trading assets for, like a Zaire, like a Kevin Huerter, like Anthony Melton if he's up there, someone like that. He isn't really, and the fit with the team is sort of weird because he isn't a high level athlete, like you said, and he isn't a high level shooter. So the fit with the Lakers doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's obviously great to have wings who can handle the ball and have are really smart with the ball in their hand. But with someone like Lonzo, it's kind of redundant if he can't shoot or be like a lob threat, a guy who can drive to the rim really well. But anyone else in that range? People that I think people bring up like a Lonnie Walker. You're lower on Lonnie Walker than a lot of people seem to be, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of lower on Colin Sexton, Lonnie Walker, Kevin Knox even. I've warmed up to Knox at like 16, but he's being talked about as high as 6. I think that's batshit crazy, honestly. Like that's so. Yeah, I'm a little lower on the guys that don't really have high level feel. in their game as far as understanding how to play. I just think there's a lot of variance with those kinds of players. You look historically like a Ben McLemore type, Terrence Ross, those ultra athletic guys who can shoot the ball. They always get pushed up in draft time just because they're viewed as high upside players. And I think those guys just have much higher fail rates. Like Lonnie Walker kind of reminds a lot of us of an Iman Shumpert type of player, maybe a better shooter, but at the same time, just not a guy you want making decisions at the highest levels of play.
Right. He's a guy that a lot of people seem to be like jumping really high on. He's a guy I wouldn't be surprised if he went top 10, Lonnie. Just off of the athleticism and shooting alone. And you know, I can see someone like the Sixers trying to take a chance on him. But if he isn't a guy that I think I would risk everything for. I'm higher on Zaire and Melton too, and Herter than I am on Lonnie. Lonnie's like 15, 16 for me, but he's not really the risk it all type of guy for me. Nelson, do you have any comments on any of the guys brought up?
No, I think you guys are pretty spot on. Although Zaire Smith is one that I point to, and I have a lot of concerns on offense with. I thought Sam Vecini brought up a good point on the podcast that he did with Cole, where he brought up how he's probably going to be like one of the top 10 worst offensive players and then be coming right in. And although necessarily you're not drafting him for his value, like entering the NBA and what he can do his first season, I do have some concerns as far as like him putting the ball on the floor and really creating some offense in that aspects. So Cole, how do you view him developing on offense, like realistically, like what's his most likely median outcome?
It's a great question. And honestly, I wish I had a better answer for you because I literally don't know. It's very hard because I think his ball handling is actually a little bit better than he gets credit for, but he has such raw instincts as a scorer and a slasher when he attacks the rim. He's just not very adept there. He doesn't show high-level scoring instincts, but he does have the ability to separate with a good first step back ability off the bounce. He can shoot off the dribble a little bit. He shows that ability. I just don't really know what it's going to add up to because it's hard to profile him as a high-level shooter off motion, so running off screens, he's not there yet. He's really got to get his feet set, but he has really good touch as far as when his feet are set, and he refines his mechanics a little bit. But honestly, I don't know. Like, if he can be a Josh Richardson kind of player where he can come off screens and shoot the ball and play high-level defense, that's a really awesome player to have on your team. But it's really hard to project that kind of shooting improvement off motion because that's one of the hardest things to do, and that's why I favor a guy like Kevin Huerter over him, even though I think Zaire probably has more conceptual upside than a guy like Huerter, but I just trust that one skill being developed more than what I don't know Zaire Smith can become.
Right. Yeah. I definitely agree. Let's move more into guys who could be there for 25 for the Lakers. The most common pick right now at 25 for the Lakers is DeAnthony Melton from USC. Now, Cole, I know you're very, very high on DeAnthony. How do you see him sort of fitting with the Lakers and how they play?
Yeah, I mean, perfect. As far as like, if people love Lonzo Ball, they're going to love DeAnthony Melton defensively because he's probably even a little bit better overall. He's definitely better on the ball. Off the ball, I don't know if a lot of guys are better than Lonzo, frankly, but he's damn close. So it's like the same guy, basically. Team defense, just has off-the-charts instincts, competitive fire, everything. Offensively, he's actually a little bit more gifted than he gets credit for as far as a creator for others. He's got good vision, so he can really get up and down in transition. Great transition player. And then the half court, I think he can initiate some sets. I'm a little bit more worried about him, what he does off the ball on offense, because we don't know about him as a shooter. He's been working with Drew Hanlon, refining his mechanics as well, similar to Bamba. It looked pretty good at the combine. He hit one fadeaway jump shot off the dribble, one 3-point shot off the catch on the hop that looked pretty fluid. He gets good arc. So there are some positives there, but again, similar to Zaire Smith, doesn't shoot the ball off motion. I'm not sure how much he can partake in sets at the NBA level right now, but I think he can definitely, if he can hit a spot up three, he can attack a closeout, he can make really high level decisions, and he's going to be an absolute monster defensively, kind of like a slimmer iteration of Marcus Smart. So he's just an awesome role player if he can shoot.
Yeah, me and Nelson are huge on him. I have him, I think 13 or 12. I know you have him sort of in the same range, right, Cole?
Yeah, I have him 13 actually.
13, yeah. I really value those guys who seem to have the upside to be really the superstar role players, pretty much. You know, like the guys who they just get you, they get you wins. Like a guy like a Marcus Smart is a guy that who he's always compared to, like you said. He just really on that defensive end, I think he can guard guys who are a lot taller than him. He plays a lot bigger than he is. He's a guy that he seems like a guy who I remember back in a couple years ago when the Celtics played the Hawks, the Celtics put Marcus Smart on Paul Millsap, and he kind of shut down Paul Millsap. I don't think Melton has the girth to guard a Paul Millsap, but I think he can guard guys who are bigger than him just off of his tenacity and off of his defensive instincts and the way he positions himself. I think the size doesn't really matter as much as it seems to a lot of people. It's the 6'3" height. I think he plays like he's 6'5", and putting him alongside Lonzo, and who also has this great off-ball instincts. And you've said before that you think Melton has some of the best like in the past few years, right? Defensive instincts.
Oh yeah, definitely up there. Probably the last decade, even among guards.
Yeah, and having those two just high IQ defensive players, this would be something that would like wreak havoc on some backcourts. And if he ever learns how to shoot, then that justifies the 13-12 range that we've seen to sort of put them all in. Yeah. Nelson, do you have anything else you want to ask about Melton?
No, I mean, like Cole hit it right on the head. Like him and Lonzo, it's scary close how good they are off ball on defense. They get into passing, they're really smart. They do those rip-aways. They have really quick hands. Melton's a tad bit longer, like as far as for his height goes. And I think that's gonna help him on ball. But he has like really long strides. He doesn't give up. He has a fiery motor. Like he will not give up on any play. He will fight, and he will not die on switches. Like he will stand his ground against bigs. How effective he will be, like I don't really know, but he definitely won't die on them. He probably won't be as good as Lonzo in that aspect, just because Lonzo's taller and he has a bit more bulk to him slightly. But Melton, he has that length that allows him to really finish, and it really makes up for his ability to jump off 1 foot. And I just think that there's a lot of untapped upside there as far as the offensive end goes. And on defense, he's going to come in and immediately going to be a good defender with as he starts to get to the small intricacies of the NBA, how defenses work and all that kind of stuff, and anticipating, probably by second year he'll already be an elite defender.
Yeah. Like I said, Melton is a guy that I think is the most likely guy to be there for Lakers, and he's the guy that I'm expecting. After Herter and Melton are off the board, it kind of gets a little weird for the Lakers. Let's move on to someone who it seems to be falling a little bit. I don't see why he should be, but Jacob Evans from Cincinnati, wing, who just really solid everywhere. Cole, I know you are also high on Jacob Evans. He's in your top 20, correct?
Yeah, I have him right now between like 16 and 18. I'm still kind of tinkering with that before tomorrow, but I'm really high on him as far as team defense ability. Really smart player. He played in that high-level defense at Cincinnati, very NBA ready, a lot of switches, a lot of communication. Number 2 defense in the country. Him and Gary Clark kind of were the pillars behind that. And he has that one motion release. I know that there was some weird tape when he worked out with the Lakers, even I think it was, where his shot just looked really funky. Yeah, I kind of reached out to some people. I was like, "What the hell is going on?" Because I heard that he had a finger issue, so that might be what's responsible for that. But he's a guy that really did shoot the ball off the catch, a little bit off movement at Cincinnati. I kind of trust his mechanics, assuming they return to Cincinnati for him. But a guy can initiate your offense at times. He's got a really good handle. He's just kind of like Zaire, where he doesn't really have scoring instincts. So when he tries to slash, we saw that a little bit in the tournament against Nevada. It's not a very good self-creator, but he can do kind of everything else that you want a role player to do.
Yeah, he was. I think he said in his interview at the Lakers draft workout is that he was a point guard. He was a point guard in high school, and those kind of guys always sort of intrigue me just because of they have the history of the ball handling and history of the passing. He's not a great passer, but he can make a right read, and he doesn't make too many mistakes on that end. He's a guy that I always go back around to comparing him to sort of like Josh Hart. He's a guy that I think a lot of people sort of thought Josh Hart was just solid at everything, but it let him sort of drop to 30, and we see how good Josh Hart was. And Cole, you had Josh in your top 20, right?
Yeah, I think I had him actually 19 or 20, so just inside.
Yeah, and I think people sort of undervalue those guys who just do everything good or do everything well, and like they're not super elite at anything, but they just get the job done, and they're guys who can get you 15 to 20 minutes on an NBA court. He's a guy who can play during the playoffs, and that's really all you can hope for a guy that you would pick up at 25. Nelson, any comments on Evans?
No, I thought you guys pretty much talked about him enough. But this is another guy that the Lakers have been rumored to invite for a second workout, and that's Anthony Simons. Cole. So like I don't know how much you've seen of him, and like what are your thoughts on Anthony?
Yeah, one of the biggest mystery boxes in the draft. He was going to go to Hoop Summit. I was down there for the week of Portland, and then he pulled out at the last second. I've said this multiple times on podcasts. I think that he's being hid on purpose at his size, 6'3". I kind of think he's more of a scoring type. He's been compared to kind of a poor man's Fultz. I'll kind of believe it when I see it, I guess. But you see the handle and the first step on tape during his workouts. He does have a quick first step. He transitions very well. I don't know anything about his level as a passer. I'm not a creator for others. Defense, he's really young. I would not take him in the first round personally. He's not in my top 26 of like first round. Have enough information. He's not someone like Mitchell Robinson who really dominated the AAU level. Like Mitchell Robinson was the best rim protector of this entire class. At AAU. We don't have enough, I think, information on Simon, so I'm skeptical. He doesn't seem like, honestly, like a Lakers kind of guy, frankly. Like, they need a self-creator, sure, to pair next to Lonzo, but I think they're going more of like the high feel level guys, high deep guys, and I don't think he fits that profile.
Yeah, I think they're going I think they're going with guys who if they do get a star, you can just put them next to a star, you know. Also, quote unquote, Cole Zwicker guys. He really loves like those. I feel guys that they know how to play basketball. Exactly. Yeah. Again, I think Jacob Evans is a guy who would fit really perfectly on that team and just seamlessly be able to take that backup wing role for them. And then Anthony Simons is a guy that you would have to have a lot of he must have worked out really well if teams like the Blazers and the Lakers are trying to get him back for a second workout. I think he flashes athleticism a little more in those settings, which makes sense because it's not really game settings, and he's able to go up and show his athleticism just off dunks and stuff like that, and it's not really the best judge of athleticism. But I think Simons isn't really the guy the Lakers want to get, especially if they're expecting a guy like LeBron or a guy like Paul George to come. Moving on to a next guy is a guy that your buddy Jackson Hoy is humongously high on. I think you know where I'm going with this. Elie Okobo, French point guard, 19 years old. I know you just recently were able to finally catch up on him. What's your takeaway from Okobo?
Yeah, I'm intrigued overall. I like the frame as far as it's 6'3", the pull-up ability, a little bit of a low release point, but it's quick enough. I think he can shoot off the dribble, which is like the first thing I look for from point guards, is their pull-up ability from distance. He has the shot-making upside. Not a very high-level athlete, honestly. Like, his burst isn't crazy. He wins more with craft, which is fine. Change of pace is actually pretty hard to guard. It's much harder to guard, in my opinion, than just raw burst. So he's got a little bit of craftiness around the rim as well. I like the vision. I'm not sure if I see him as like a high-level anticipatory passer, but he does flash that. He's not playing a ton, at least to my knowledge, historically. He didn't play a lot of point guard coming up the ranks. So now I think he's kind of learning the position. He honestly, lazily kind of reminds me of a smaller version of D'Angelo Russell in certain respects. I'm not sure if he's that good, but that kind of archetype. So I'm intrigued. Right now I have him right around 21. I actually have him a little bit over Colin Sexton just because of the pull-up jump shooting ability. I don't think he's going to be there at 25. Frankly, I think he's going to be off the board considering some of his workouts have gone really well, especially the Utah at 21. So there's some intrigue. I'm not totally comfortable enough yet putting him super high. Like, I know Jackson, I think, has him 14th. I haven't seen enough to really bank on him at that juncture, but he does have some allure. Yeah.
Speaking of point guards, do you consider Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a point guard, or do you see more of a combo?
He's a combo to me. He just doesn't have enough of a pull-up jumper right now. It's just hard to profile him. He does pass like a point guard. His handle isn't quite enough for a point guard for me. He's not shaky. He doesn't have a ton of shake. He has like some nice dribble moves, but we saw against Kansas State when he really pressed into his body, he can't carve out space with his frame. His handle is good, but not great. And the pull-up, the lack of that ability, it really hurts him, I think. But off the ball, as a catch and shoot player, I view him more as like a secondary ball handler who can really cause havoc, attacking closeouts, passing on the move. One of the best like drive and kick vision passers in the draft.
Yeah, I bring up Shai just because people seem to have sort of a little bit of a hard time of gauging who's the point guard or not in this class. I think the one you can say for sure, like Trey for sure. Do you classify Luka as a point guard?
I think he can play it. He's kind of just an initiator to me. He's not like a stereotypical point guard. I think he can do it, but he can play on and off the ball. You don't want him doing it every time. Like, he's not James Harden where you want him doing like 1-5 pick and roll in every possession, but he definitely can initiate your offense.
Right. Yeah. Just because Okobo, you can sort of make a case that he's the second best point guard in the draft behind Trae Young. I think you mentioned his passing. He seems to make a lot of those really flashy passes. He doesn't make the right read all the time. He doesn't make just the easy pass. It's more so the highlight pass. I think that's why he more projects as a bench scorer, and you know, running the second unit, and a guy who sort of just comes in after your starter is out and just sort of keep the energy going, keep the team going, but not really be able to fully run a team. I don't really see the starter upside. I see him as a high end 6-man type of player.
I'm with you. I think that honestly, overall, there's just a really high threshold for me for like good point guards, like really good point guards. You have to have a really high ceiling if you're going to invest in someone like that, because if you just have a run of the mill, I think Colin Sexton's upside is something like a Jeff Teague or maybe like a very slight chance of Kemba Walker, his like 95th percentile outcome. And that's just not enough for me to invest like multiple years in a guy. And I like the point you made about Okobo's decision making, because that's something you guys probably know pretty well watching D'Angelo, who has the vision, right? He has an awesome vision, but his decision making, his execution, even now, has always left you wanting. And that's a really, high level quality you have to have, and that's something that Lonzo's great at, for example.
Yeah. That's why watching Lonzo after watching D'Angelo is just like, Lonzo doesn't always make the super highlight play. Like, he makes the occasional touchdown baseball pass, but he always just makes the correct pass, and you always see him making the correct pass. D'Angelo always made the highlight pass, and that's the same sort of comparison with Okobo.
I mean, it's really shaping up to be like when Colin Sexton goes like 9 to the Knicks, that Cole's just gonna like die. He's not gonna be able to.
Or 6 to the Magic, dude, instead of trading. Yeah, I would melt. I'm gonna melt. It's gonna be bad.
No. Actually, Colin Sexton to the Knicks actually wouldn't be that bad, because I love watching that guy compete. Like, he's so much fun.
Super fun.
Yeah,
so fun.
He's so much fun to watch. I mean, I was super high on him coming into the year, and it just he left a lot to be desired. He's just a guy that you can see going for like a 50-point game one night and just being the most fun game you'll watch all season, something like that. But not consistent enough where he's a high level starter or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and in the NBA draft, you're looking for guys that are going to contribute to winning basketball. And Colin Sexton, like, to get to that point, like Cole said, you have to invest so much time and resources into that at some point it's just not worth it to take them really like lottery, and especially like in the top 20. So I'm with Cole on that one.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move into sort of borderline guys who can be first round, second round. Let's start with Landry Shamet. What have you gotten a lot lower on Shamet? Like, a lot of people seem to have dropped on him after the combine. Did you sort of stay steady with him, or has he dropped on your board?
He's dropped a little bit. I still have him around 24, so he's a first-round prospect to me just with his ability to shoot off motion. But we saw guys at the combine, similar NBA caliber athletes, that were able to harass his shot more, his shooting pocket, because it's a little bit of a lower release. He's not Kevin Huerter, who's 6'7", has that lightning quick, kind of higher release point. So I'm a little worried about him because he doesn't have the defensive safety. He's very narrowly built. I don't know how he defends kind of as far as containing with his body. He's going to get run through a lot. He does have really good feet, though, and he's really intelligent. He kind of reminds me of like a Seth Curry kind of player, just a guy who's kind of a bench shooter who has really high feel level, makes the right play. I do think he's a first-round pick, though. I do like him as a player. At 25, I would have no reservations about taking him. He could fall to the second round. Like, if he was available at pick 39 or wherever LA traded up to, I would easily take him there.
Yeah, I actually think he will get in the second round. It's weird how him and Shake Milton have, like, they completely just dropped after the combine to a lot of people. I mean, I've seen mocks with Shake and Landry in like the 40s. And
I mean, the Ringer draft guide has him at 51, so it's pretty.
Yeah, it's if you can get that guy at 39, or both those guys at 39 or 47, that's a huge win, especially for the Lakers, who are still in desperate need of shooting, and those two guys bring some high level shooting, especially Shamet. Moving on, let's go to Josh Okogie. How do you see Okogie sort of fitting with the Lakers? I know you've got really high on him, then you sort of dropped pretty quickly on him after watching more on him.
Yeah, Relatively high. I have him top 20 still. He's an interesting upside play to me, just because you can see him if he materializes. He has some starter equity as a two-way guy. He has the horizontal quickness. He's actually a pretty good lateral athlete. He has the strength and the length, 7-foot wingspan, 210-pound frame.
Yeah.
His motor, I think, is a little overrated, especially off the ball defensively. He's not very good as a team defender. Honestly, he's much better in a switching type scheme. But offensively, there's some upside. I mean, he does have a pretty good handle, or pretty underrated. He has a low dribble in traffic, so he can kind of run a secondary pick and roll. His role at Georgia Tech was outside the realm of what he's probably going to have at the pros, as far as he was asked to initiate a lot of sets. He is not a high-level playmaker for others. He's a capable passer, but he gets out of control way too much, too many turnovers in bad situations. His shot's a little bit deliberate. He's not a great off movement shooter, a little bit of a lower release point that you can harass, not ultra quick, but if he speeds up his release point off the catch, he's a pretty good rhythm shooter on catch and shoots. I think I trust him there. If you can add that off motion dynamic to his game a little bit, I think that he can return starter value. That's why I kind of have him at 19.
Yeah.
But compared to someone like Jacob Evans, I go back and forth between those two. I think I prefer Evans just because of the steadiness. It's kind of a microcosm of comparing Mikal Bridges to Miles Bridges.
Right.
Mikal's just much steadier than Miles is. Maybe Miles has more upside akin to a guy like Josh Okogie, but I think I just prefer the safety at this point.
Yeah, I see the upside. I'm a little scared of the decision making on both ends, like you said. I know he makes some questionable decisions on both ends, to say the least. But you can't deny the frame and the wingspan and the athleticism with him. And if you can get a 6'4" guy with a 7-foot wingspan who is, he killer on ball and he can knock down a three, that's, like I said, that's a starter if he cleans up the shot release and speeds it up a little bit. Let's move on to second round guys, or I mean, I guess you can say for this guy, future first rounder. Let's talk about Kenrich Williams.
Yeah, I love him. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. I mean, second round, he's in my top 25. He's never going to go in the first round because he's already 23 and a half, but 6'7" guy who can dribble and pass, one of the best decision makers in the class. He's not going to shine in workouts as far as one-on-no workouts because he's not going to pop athletically. He's a guy that you really need to see 5-on-5 play, kind of like Melton in that regard. Obviously not the athlete that Melton is, but he is a projectable shot. He doesn't shoot off motion, and he should shoot better based on his mechanics than he has historically at TCU. But awesome team defender, really knows where to be. His active feet on the ball kind of remind me a little bit of Joe Ingles. He's probably not going to be that caliber of shooter, of course, because Joe Ingles is one of the best shooters in the league. Yeah. But in the second round, man, I'm just looking for 6'7" wings who have playmaking ability and to play team defense, and he's one of the only guys that really fits that mold.
Yeah, he did work out with the Lakers, so I'm hoping not like 47 because I love those. The high skill team defender type guys. I mean, that's why I was so high on someone like Jonte, which again, it sucks that he's not in this draft, but what are you gonna do? The guys who can just make the right decision, who can be in the right position and knock down a three, are just guys who are gonna be in a rotation for a playoff team, and that's what I see happening with Kendrick. I see him getting drafted by a team like the Spurs somehow, or the Celtics, or someone like that who can really utilize his decision making, and he would be just like a great seventh man on a roster like that. Nelson, do you have anything on Kendrick?
Oh no, I agree with everything that you guys said. Like in the second round, especially, like that's insane value for someone who can, that's smart with the ball, make smart decisions. In the first round, that's a tad bit too rich for me on that one, but in the second round, I think he really contributes to like what the Lakers are trying to do. Great field guy, so obviously I'm sure that the Lakers are interested.
Cole, how is he with switching?
I think he's going to be capable. I mean, against like the high-level point guards that are ultra quick, he might have a little bit of problems. But again, he mirrors really well for his size. We even saw him like match up against Trae Young and contain him a couple times this year. So I don't think it's going to be a huge problem, especially as a backup. Like if he's defending backup point guards on a switch, I think he's going to be okay. He gets run through a little bit by bigger power forwards, but that's pretty much the same for all of these wing types. I think he actually holds his own pretty well. So I'm higher in his switchability, I think.
Yeah, and I think if the Lakers do see a guy like that, they wouldn't hesitate to go at 47. Again, I think like what Nelson said, I think he just fits the way the Lakers want to play, and if you can have a guy like that off your bench, 3-4 type of guy, then that would be awesome to have. Moving on, let's talk about Javon Carter. Where you sort of have him on your board and what do you think he can do as a backup point guard in the NBA?
I don't have him as a first-round graded prospect just because I tend to not put backup point guards there. I think this is pretty fungible, and his position, his team fit's going to be really imperative because he's not really a point guard as far as initiating your sets. He's more of like a Patrick Beverley type of guy, but he's not as athletic as Beverley is. He's stronger. He has that frame, but he can shoot. He can shoot the ball. Like he has shot diversity. He can shoot off motion. He can shoot off the dribble a little bit. I like him overall on your team. Like I would absolutely take that guy in the second round. He's going to set the tone in practice. The guy's a man of very little words. If you listen to him talk, he basically says like 4 things every time he's asked a question. Like this is what I do. West Virginia. That's basically all he has. He's like a no bullshit guy, and so like you're always know what you're gonna get from him in practice and stuff. So I love him as a player, and he's someone that every team wants on their roster just because he's always going to bring the intensity, especially in practice.
Yeah, it's always fun to have guys who just literally snatch basketballs from other people's hands and just run with it. Like he what was his steal rate in college? He had like 3+ steals per game, right? Like he had something insane.
He has the fastest hands I've ever seen for a player. It's unreal how fast his hands are.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get that guy as a backup point guard just to defend, just to really just bother those point guard types. I mean, he's not going to be a lockdown guy, but he really just, if he can go out there and really bug those guys like a Patrick Beverley could. Like you said, Beverly's a better athlete, but Javon is a bigger guy who can really take some of the blows from some of the point guards. Again, that's a guy that I would love at 47 or 39. And just the Lakers need backup guards. I mean, we had Tyler Ennis as our backup point guard, so anything would be better than Tyler Ennis. Although we still do have Alex Caruso, which is still a plus.
There you go. I love Caruso. Yeah, that's Caruso God right there. Okay,
thank you. Never forget Summer League when he absolutely shut down De'Aaron Fox. Never gonna forget that moment. He's just he's such a fun guy to watch when he's just humming along. It's great.
He's a legend. He's a legend.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move on to Kentucky big man and Wenyen Gabriel. What do you think about Wenyen as an NBA prospect?
Yeah, he has the length at the 4 position, can kind of play the small ball 5. He really improved his shooting this year, so we can kind of pick and pop a little bit. He's good laterally. He's not outstanding. He's pretty solid. I don't know. Like in the second round, I'm fine with the shooting improvements. I think you can find a projectable role for that guy. The Kentucky situation obviously wasn't great for him, so I would have no problems with him in the second round. Yeah,
the shooting would definitely be a plus for Lakers. I know he had one of the highest scores for that Laker mentality drill. I think Pete tweeted that out. Pete Zayas, Laker filmer, tweeted that out when he was working out for them. And he seemed like another like high character guy who would just be a good locker room guy who can defend some, and he can make an open 3, which would be always great to have for Lakers. Another guy that we've heard a lot about as Laker fans, someone that they really like is Svi Mykhailiuk from Kansas. He's still only 21 somehow. I've heard you say it on multiple occasions, Cole. It feels like he's been
10 years.
Yeah, it feels like he's been in college. Like he's like the Perry Ellis.
Shout out to Perry Ellis, man.
Kansas, man.
It's unreal.
Yeah. What do you like? At 47, do you think he'd be a good pickup, or what do you think?
He can really shoot the ball. I think at that point in the draft, you're just looking for guys with NBA skill sets. Of course, he has the negative wingspan, which is I don't know really how he defends at the NBA level at a high level. I mean, even at a respectable level, frankly, he's not going to be a good defensive player, but he can shoot the ball. And at that point in the draft, unless Mitchell Robinson's falling for character concerns, like you take an NBA skill set, especially if it's just, even if it's a guy just for summer league where he's on your summer league roster, he makes other guys better by his ability to space the floor, gives other guys creation space. I think you can operate that way as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I kind of have a question about another wing that I know Merge and Clayton really like. It's Hamidou Diallo.
I knew it was coming. Man.
I'm just saying, like he can jump out of the gym, freakish, like measurables.
I've dropped a considerable amount on him.
yeah, but I mean, because he can't play basketball. Like that's the only problem with him. Like he legit can't play basketball. But
and that's a problem. And that's a problem.
yeah, it definitely is, especially for you, Cole, who's like a really high field guy. Like, at what point do you think that he's worried to be drafted, if drafted at all?
I would never have a problem with him in the last couple of picks of the second round. frankly, just kicking the tires on him. Frankly, he should have came out last year. That was just a huge mistake. I mean, like definitely. After he registered that no step vertical at the combine, he would have gone. He would have gone late first round, and then predictably went back and got exposed because he's not skilled. He doesn't have any feel on the court. At least he started playing better defense down the stretch of the season. So that's one thing you can really, if you want to draft him, that's what you hang your hat on, is that tape during the latter half of the season where he started getting more engaged and you actually started to see the athleticism apply functionally on the court. Like Zaire Smith is definitely what we thought Hamidou Diallo was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
So it's last 5 picks in the second round. I'm cool with him, but I don't know what his upside is. You put him in the G League, you try to develop his catch and shoot shot. I just don't see the upside with guys who don't really know how to play.
Yeah, he's completely just went all the way
clueless,
down.
Just clueless on the basketball court.
Let's talk about another Kentucky prospect that I like, and Nelson liked. He didn't play much, but Jared Vanderbilt. I know he's a guy that you can't really take much from what he did during Kentucky, just because he didn't play as much. But just from what you've seen, just for his high school and his AAU career, stuff like that. What do you think about Vanderbilt? What do you think he projects as in the NBA?
Yeah, he's really tough because he does so much on the court that I really like. Like he was at Hoop Summit practices, like I think it was the Nike campus practice. He was the best player on the court in that setting, and that was with guys like Michael Porter, Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter. Very good player, probably the best grab and go big in the class. Incredibly fast, great handle. He can dribble in tight spaces. He's got good feel as far as court awareness goes as a passer, and he has good feet defensively. Like he can really cover ground. He's ultra athletic. Like you watch him kind of bring the ball up compared to Shea Alexander at Kentucky, and it was like night and day. He's just that much better as an athlete. It just comes down to 2 things. He has no natural touch as far as floaters in the inside. He just can't. I don't know how he finishes. I mean, you can use him in short rolls and as a switch big, but can he finish around the rim? And then his shot just seems broken. He has a slight hitch in it. I don't know how he really adds value there. So he can rebound the hell out of the ball too. That's something I should have mentioned. Like he's DeJuan Blair level rebounder at the college level, just everywhere.
DeJuan Blair.
Yeah, like statistically, I think they were both like 17, 18 rebounds per 40 minutes pace adjusted, which is just obscene. Yeah, so you can see the activity level. He does a lot of things on the court, but how valuable really is that unless you can shoot the ball in the modern game? You know what I mean? But maybe as a situational big, like he can definitely attack on short rolls. There are going to be lineups where he's valuable. I think he's going to be one of my favorite picks outside of my first round, 26 guys. He might be, in the upper half of like the next like 5 players or so as guys I would just bet on.
Where are you okay with drafting him?
I'm okay second round. I mean, again, for me, I only have 26 first round picks.
Right.
I'm assuming that one of those guys is going to be available. Like Kendricks, for example, is going to be there, so I can kind of fall back on that crutch instead of running out of guys. But I'm fine with him in the second round. Like, there's a lot of guys I'm fine with drafting because you're just going to run out of guys. It's not really realistic to assume that. I mean, I have 26 guys ranked as first, and there's 60 picks. So you got to take guys eventually. And Vanderbilt's one of my favorite guys outside of that range.
Right. Another guy that the Lakers have worked out super early in the process is a guy that kind of came on really strong during the tournament. Omari Spellman for Villanova. I didn't expect him to actually declare. But he's here now. What do you see his role as in the NBA?
Yeah, he's definitely cleaner to value in the NBA as a pick and pop guy. He's got functional mechanics. Villanova, their whole Jay Wright footwork deal where they're just incredibly fundamental there, so catches on the hop, can put the ball on the floor a little bit. He's got underrated coordination as a ball handler. I don't know really what he is defensively. His feet are okay. I didn't see really high-level instincts from him at his time there. He's kind of an older player for his class. So in this range, I mean, it's him and Jared Vanderbilt for me are the 2 bigs that are kind of interesting for different reasons, of course. I think that Vanderbilt's a much better athlete, but Spellman has the ability to pick and pop. And I think that these guys, if you want to talk about draft philosophy and build that in, you can find these caliber of players in free agency, maybe even for the minimum or for very small amounts. So I wouldn't invest a first round pick just from a philosophy standpoint, but I do like some of the traits that Spellman brings to the table.
Yeah. A lot of those Villanova guys they seem to project as good or solid NBA players, which I want to transition into another Villanova guy in Jalen Brunson. Where do you have Jalen Brunson in your rankings?
I love him. He's my favorite backup point guard in the class. But again, this goes back to the philosophy point of not ranking those guys in the first, but he's my favorite of the veteran guys. I like him more than Javon Carter. I like him more just because he's so disciplined. He can really pass the hell out of the ball, make reads. He's got a dynamic pull-up game, and he's got a ton of craft to work with. Like, I don't know if his post-up stuff's going to translate to the next level, as far as he did a lot of that, and his vision is just outstanding overall, and his defense is going to be a problem. He does have some size as far as some thickness to his frame, but doesn't have the length. I like him more, honestly, than an Aaron Holiday type, even just because I feel like he is just a better basketball player. And if they're all going to be backup point guards, just give me the dude who can play. And I think he's going to be in the league for 10 years.
That was someone I was going to bring up next, just for Lakers Twitter. Jerry, I can never say his last name right, but UCLA Jerry, I think he has Holiday in his top 20. And he's absolutely insanely high on Aaron Holiday.
That's wild, man. That's wild.
I think he has him 23, because I was making fun of him about that the other night, and he actually clarified it. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a group DM with him, and he always brings up the same synergy numbers of just like how insane he was as a shooter.
Insanely good shooter.
Yeah, just off synergy, he was like, him and Jalen Brunson had two like the best synergy stats and like numbers for shooting in like the class. Like, they were insanely efficient on offense. Along with people like Jerome Robinson, who I don't even know where to place Jerome Robinson at this point, but Jerome Robinson, and I'm missing someone else. Like, again, Herder has really good synergy numbers. People like that. I think Kyrie Thomas also has good shooting synergy numbers, but defensively they're really bad. Do you have any sort of opinion on Kyrie? And he's a guy that I think I've seen a lot of people have top 20, and I think a lot of people sort of look at the defensive player of the year stuff in the Big East. So what are your feelings on Kyrie?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan, frankly. It's hard to be an effective NBA defender at 6'3", unless you're DeAnthony Melton or Zaire Smith. Like, those guys are just freak shows. And like, Kyrie's not that kind of player. Like, he's very disciplined. He's a technical defender. I like a lot of stuff he does, but in college, like, he would just get assignments and he would just mirror those guys and shadow them off the ball. So he's kind of defending guys like you would in high school, like, go take that guy out of the game. Mm-hmm. That's how he was utilized. So I didn't really see the high level team defensive instincts. A lot of people are comparing him to an Avery Bradley. He's not nearly the athlete that Bradley is. So I think that's where the disconnect is. People are like, oh, that's the next Avery Bradley. We can pair him next to like a wing initiator and he can guard point guards at a high level.
Right.
I like a lot of elements of his game. He's got a good shot off the catch. Very good at the extra pass. Very unselfish player, but not a good ball handler. Loose handle. Loses it when he tries to attack closeouts. I don't see a lot of off movement shooting with him either. So just not someone I'm particularly interested in the first round.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. He's not in that 26. He's more of a second round guy.
Yeah, for me.
I think I'd be okay with him. Like, if the Lakers draft him at 39, I think I'd be fine with that at 39. But
sure.
Like, I just don't see like the numbers don't do him well when it comes to the on-off stuff with him, and watching him in the film, he just didn't really impress me that much. I mean, he had some athletic plays where he had some posters, but like, there isn't anything that really jumped off the page for me like it did when I watched a Melton or like a Zaire Smith or people like that who actually like really just dynamic players. But I just don't see the appeal. Nelson, do you have any thought on Kyrie?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you guys. His appeal, like, it's just at that size, you have to have that motor and the length and the measurables and the instincts, and Kyrie Thomas just really lacks that for me. Like, he's gonna be overdrafted in my opinion. A lot of people have him high in the first round, like even like around that lotto range, and even that top 20 range is still a little too rich for me. Mm-hmm. I personally wouldn't take him in the first round. I don't have him that high. But maybe like in the second round, I'd be a little more comfortable with it. But yeah, I mean, like Cole said, it's like, to be 6'3" and to be a really good defender, you have to have a certain skill set. And Melton is one of those exceptions to where he has the motor, the instincts, the length, and just the mentality of that bulldog, like, I don't give a fuck mentality, that I'm gonna fucking lock you down. And although Kyrie could do that, he doesn't have that versatility as where like Melton can also be an insane team defender as well, which is really important in a team construct.
I like the fire, man. Well done. I like
that. Yeah, definitely. Do you have any other guys that we haven't mentioned, Cole, that you have, like, sort of guys that you think are a little underrated or not talked about as much?
Did we talk about Mitchell Robinson?
We didn't talk about him.
Oh, we haven't talked about Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
we got to talk about him probably because he's definitely in play. I think at 39, if he falls that far,
Right.
just from an upside standpoint, there's a lot of characteristics with him. Apparently, like the indecisiveness going to Western Kentucky. Apparently, he did not interview well. So take this with a grain of salt because, of course, I didn't see him play in college. But Mike Gribanoff writes for the Stepien. I trust him pretty much full force as far as high school basketball. He watched a ton of AAU, and he was like Jaren Jackson and Mitchell Robinson are the two best rim protectors in this class. And we saw what happened with Jaren Jackson. So as an upside play, I mean, this guy can really change ends of the floor. I saw him at McDonald's, as a rim runner type. The Lakers don't really have a center like that who can get up and down and protect the rim. So I think as an upside play,
Did he freeze?
Yeah, he froze.
Oh man. Cole?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
No problem. I'll cut that out. You got cut off an upside play.
Oh yeah, I just said that like the guys with his physical tools in the second round just usually aren't available, and you're not going to find a higher kind of upside play in the second round than a guy like Mitchell Robinson, even with the characteristics. If you can really put him in the right culture, get him with the right veterans, like the upside is just too high.
Yeah, I've always said if the Lakers draft him, I trust that they've done their homework on the guy and they know what they're gonna do with him and how like he's gonna be handled if he does have the personality issues. But the Lakers seem to be really good at drafting high character guys. So I think if they did draft him, then he checked all of their boxes, so to speak.
Yeah, he'd be a total flyer.
Definitely.
And the Lakers need that at the center spot because they have been lacking a center, like a legitimate, athletic, modern center since I don't think they have one on the roster sort of with Thomas Bryant with the improvements he's made athletically and with the length and with a tad bit of such ability that he has and the shooting. But yeah, I mean, like a guy like Mitchell Robinson, he's a guy that the Lakers need. It's just that the problem is that whether he gets there or not, and like for me, his median outcome it's a little bit lower just because of those red flags. Maybe I'm putting a bit too much stock into them. I mean, maybe like if he goes to the Warriors, like you in the like you mocked in your mock draft with the Sam Vecini, like that'd just be insane because there's no better culture than the Warriors, and like just letting them step in there and just being like, hey, like this is what you got to do. You don't got to do anything else. Like just stay in your lane. Just want you to rim run and protect the rim, and also switch and just use your feet and just this is all we need you to do. Like we don't need you to create on offense. Like we are generational scorers on our team. Like we do not need that. And I feel that like if you really confine him to a certain role, like early on, and like if the Lakers manage to like bring towards a LeBron and a Paul George, like those are the kind of figures that he needs with the Lakers. So I think that I'd feel more comfortable if the Lakers were bringing in a marquee free agent signing, because right now the Lakers don't seem to really have that like core veteran presence, because they're a relatively young team in that aspect.
Definitely.
If Mitchell Robinson went to the Warriors, I don't know what I would do, honestly. the world would burn. He'd be JaVale on steroids, pretty much. If that happened.
Yeah, that's an all-time heat check by the Warriors if they just turn him into like this impactful player. Like if he becomes like the next DeAndre Jordan somehow, that would just be the all-time heat check by the Warriors. It's incredible.
And the jumper becoming a thing as well.
God.
Oh my God.
Who needs Anthony Davis? We have Robinson on a cheap deal.
Pretty much, man.
There you go.
Jeez. Is there anyone else, any other underrated guys that you haven't really mentioned a lot on a lot of pods that you like?
Not really, honestly. I have a list of 26 that I go by, and everybody else I kind of just have outside of it. And I mean, I guess we should talk about Dante DiVincenzo really quick.
Oh,
I don't think he's going to be there at 25 either, so he's going to go high. I think that Jonathan Gavoni tweeted today that he's not even going to be there at 21 to Utah.
Jeez,
so you can see him go even like these shooters at draft time, man, they get pushed up. So I think you see Jerome Robinson as like the 13th pick in the draft. I've seen that guy play a considerable amount. Yeah, and like he's literally the worst defensive player in the draft, at least amongst the first round picks. So I don't know what's going on this time of year. I think that guys are buying into workouts a little bit too much,
right,
and forgetting the actual game tape. But I mean, it's high character guys who can really shoot the ball. They're going to rise. I think that's the takeaway.
I mean, that's the reason someone like Kevin Knox has been projected 6 to 11. You know, I mean, he a workout guy who just killed workouts, and he might
also the age.
Yep. The age as well.
He's 18. He's 18.
I think a lot of people are gonna look at him and think he's like a younger Kuzma. I think he can mold it into like better than what Kuzma was at 23, and I think they're gonna like sort of overdraft him because of that. And I mean, I like him, but he's not a guy that like a lottery guy for me, just because of. I don't like the ball handling. I like the defense. He's a good shooter. I like the shot, but he just doesn't scream lottery pick to me. You know,
it's just that we all think that we know everything about basketball, and yet like the consensus like number one draft, like number one player on everyone's board isn't even going to go number one. Like it shows how little progress we've made. I mean, as far as like the league in general, that they're still missing on picks, because I mean, passing on Luka. He might slide to 5, which is insane. I would have never thought that, and it just really shows how dumb so many NBA teams are.
Yeah. I mean, everybody just has different philosophies. Like some of the NBA guys, they value production, intersection with athleticism, and who knows how this is going to play out. Like I definitely think Luke is the best prospect, but Ayton could definitely be the best player in the draft. I would bet against that because I think one of the higher upside guys is going to hit. So yeah, we're going to see how it plays out, man. It's going to be a really fascinating draft.
Yeah, I agree. Before we go, do you have any sort of bold prediction you want to make about the draft tomorrow?
All right, so I've been saying this on every podcast today, and I'm hoping this happens. I'm hoping that Luka goes 3 to the Hawks, and then the Hawks trade up to 12 to 13 to take Trae Young. So we have Luka and Trae Young. And that's my heat check call. So I really hope it happens. I will become the biggest Atlanta Hawks fan of all time. So,
man, and they have your boy Bembry too. Weren't you a big fan of Bembry coming out?
Love Bembry. Yeah, he hasn't really panned out as far as the shot. I think I learned some lessons from that one, but I love his skill level, and that team would be so fun. And the hair, absolutely, yeah.
Nelson, do you have a bold prediction for the draft?
Let's see, bold prediction. I feel. I've been cooking this one up, and I think Bamba's going to be the best big out of the draft. That's my bold prediction.
Wow, okay. That wasn't even the type of hot take I was expecting.
No. I only give the hottest takes here, so I had to go with the hottest one, and I mean I have a number 2 on my board. I have him as my best big in the drafts, and I see it. I think with that high variance outcome, like I'll bank on that. I know how unlikely it is, but I think that it's there, and I like the medium outcome as well. So I think that's why I think he's probably. I'd bet on him being the best big in the draft. I know that's a really spicy take, but
yeah. I have two predictions. I think the Celtics trade it for a top 5 pick, and I think the Nuggets draft Keita Bates-Diop at 14.
Wow,
interesting.
I don't know why Keita Bates-Diop just seems like a Nuggets guy, and a lot of Nuggets people that I've seen actually really like him. So he's been the guy that I think is going to be drafted way higher than he should. So that's sort of what I think. And I think the Celtics somehow end up with Luka. I don't know how. I don't know why it would happen, but the Celtics end up with Luka trading up to the top 5 and end up with Luka somehow.
Why are we giving Brad Stevens the smartest player to ever enter the draft since like LeBron?
I don't know why I'm giving the Celtics. This is a Lakers podcast. I'm giving Luka Doncic to the Celtics.
Yeah, you guys are gonna lose some listeners after this one, man, because they're gonna be heated. I don't think Boston needs any more nice things.
Oh my gosh!
I have one more bold prediction. I think the Sixers trade up for Luka. That's what I'm gonna go. For.
Okay, I do think they could trade for a top 5. I've heard a lot of talk that they could trade for a top 5, but.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they might not go too aggressive in free agency, because I know they're rumored with LeBron, and I think that they're like a legitimate destination for LeBron. But I feel that if they get any inkling that he's not going to come, or like he's not really considering like too much of a favorite, that they trade up to number 4 and they take on Parsons' contract and they draft Luka, and they just have like my favorite draft core of all time, and it's just, the process lives on.
And somehow Fultz like figures everything out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're giving all these East teams all this talent. I don't know what we're doing here, man.
It's because LeBron's coming to the Lakers, so we're not worried.
Everyone's coming. I don't care. Laker exceptionalism is back. We're getting everybody. There we go, man. Anyway, let's end it there before we have any more hot takes. Celtics and give the Celtics any more good players. Cole, thanks for joining us. Go ahead and plug anything you have coming up or anything that you have out right now.
Sure. I mean, check out the Stepien.com. We've had a ton of big boards going up. Jackson Hoy just wrote an 84-minute piece, which is like mind-blowing. I have no idea how that's physically possible. That kid's work ethic is just ridiculous. But we'll have things going up tomorrow. We're doing a live draft show starting at 4 o'clock. We'll kind of walk through all the picks. So you can check that on the Stepien. If you want to catch a podcast tomorrow before the draft about like a recap episode, Sean Darenthal and I just recorded a 2-hour one last night on like summarizing the draft. We kind of did our big boards and talked a little about philosophy, and then checked me out. Usually I go once a week on the Game Theory podcast with Sam Bassini. So that's all I got for you.
There we go. Thanks, man. Again, you can follow the podcast at Under the Best Pod, and you can follow me at Merch Christian. You can follow Nelson at IDK_Espinoza. Nelson, go ahead and push anything that you have out right now too.
Yeah, so I wrote my super important article about hair, which is really important come draft time. And I also wrote the 2-part series on Melton. He's like my guy in this draft. Like I really do think that he's gonna be one of the steals of the draft if he does fall into those 20 areas. But Cole, I gotta ask, because I know that you're kind of annoyed that you always are plugging this eventual article that you're gonna write, but you typically do your huge big board that's almost about as long as Jackson Hoy's big board, where you just break down like I think the top 30 prospects, right, into tiers, and you do like their specific analysis and you just recap all your thoughts on them. Are you gonna be doing that this year?
No, unfortunately not. Not any time. Too many podcasts. Like I've done like 50 podcasts in the last like 2 weeks. I just don't have the mental capacity. But I think I'm gonna end up doing a quick big board post and just kind of maybe a paragraph for each of the top 26 or so. If I can get to that tonight, we'll see how that proceeds.
Yeah, like Pete said, you're now a professional podcast guest. So it'll slow down a lot more over the next few months. But I mean, draft season starts back up in a few more months, so you won't get that much time off.
I mean, Cole's legitimately on every single NBA draft podcast, like or any NBA podcast in general. Like he's just spewing all his takes.
Yeah, he's been on here. Obviously, you were on Lakers Legacy. You were just on Laker Film Room today. You're everywhere on every podcast.
Celtics,
ever.
Hawks, Magic, anywhere, like any team. He has no fatigue. He has like the most stamina, draft stamina always.
Yeah, I don't take a second for granted, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
No problem, man. Again, you can follow the podcast at Underbus Pod. And we'll see you guys later. Peace.